Welcome to episode 38 of Believe in TCU as part of the Believe Network. I'm Zion Trammell, joined alongside Ian Napetian. We've got an episode solely dedicated to TCU baseball. They've been rolling. They've won 6 games in a row. They're just playing at an elite level right now. Ian, of course, is the play-by-play announcer for TCU baseball on 88.7 KTCU. So he got to experience it all. It was a fun week for the Frogs, a pair of walk-offs. And really, the highlight of it all, the offense was just on fire throughout the week. Kind of, Ian, I wanted to ask you, what were your impressions of the offense this week? How fun was it to be a part of 2 walk-offs this week?
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. TCU's offense has just looked really they've been in a groove for the last week or so, and it's something that you want to see continue going into this UTA midweek game on Tuesday, and then also this home series against Kansas this coming weekend. But this last week, TCU sweeping the week, going 4-0. They beat UTSA on that Tuesday, then sweeping BYU in what was a very consolidated series, if you will, playing 3 games in 2 days on Thursday and Friday. So, but no, it was great seeing TCU come out. And obviously, sweeping this series was huge for TCU. I think it was a necessary series where you can rightfully say that, hey, this is a sweepable series that we should win all 3. And for TCU, they were able to kind of stretch out their not lead, but stretch out the gap between themselves and some other teams in the Big 12 conference, which is huge as well. So really glad to see TCU firing on all cylinders. Really great pitching as well, but the offense was absolutely stellar.
When I think of the offense and just the performance they had this weekend, like Sawyer Stroh-Snyder and Noah Franco come to mind. The pairing there is just like LeBron and D Wade in their prime. It's absolutely special. Noah Franco had 5 hits in 3 doubles, and I believe the first game of their doubleheader, Sawyer Stroh-Snyder was leaving the ballpark. It seemed like every AB. They are unbelievable for Coach Sarlos, and it's been fun to watch. But then the other guys are starting to put it together a little bit too. Cole Kramer obviously was had a good weekend on the fun side of it with the walk-offs, and then it also feels like Carson Bowen's starting to click as well, and it feels like a team as a collective is really feeding off each other and really buys into that idea of offense is contagious.
Yeah, no, I mean, this offense got off to a great start on that first game, the game 1 of that Thursday doubleheader. Like you mentioned, I mean, Noah Franco has been absolutely stellar. It's been great to see his production offensively, especially with how he struggled on the mound as of late with his last couple of starts, just going about an inning or an inning and 2/3 at the max. But he's been fantastic. He's got his average up to 333 after going 5 for 5 in game 1 of the series. He went, I believe, 8 for 9 on Thursday as a whole between both doubleheaders, and then also got in on the action on Friday as well. And then Sawyer Stroh-Snyder, the biggest thing for Sawyer Stroh-Snyder was just getting him back in the lineup. He missed 2 consecutive games, the Sunday over at Houston and then the Tuesday against UTSA here at home. And for someone that's hitting with such a hot bat right now, to have that back in the lineup is huge. And, he's DHing right now, but wouldn't be surprised to see him go back in right field eventually. But at the same time, we also got to see Noah Franco in right field, and he played very well as well. He's 6'3", 205 pounds, I believe, but he does not run like that. He's very swift, very quick, has great reads off the bat to figure out if he wants to come in or go back in the outfield, able to run fly balls that are tailing down the right field line, all that. It was great to see, especially between those two, just swinging a hot bat. And then, like you mentioned, some other guys, Chase Brunson, it's no surprise to me that he's having himself a good season, but he's very quietly batting 357. I don't think enough people realize that Chase Brunson's actually swinging a very, very hot bat this year too. He's been on base in all 33 games, I believe, this season. And then, like you mentioned, Cole Kramer had a fun week, 2 walk-offs, 1 on Tuesday, 1 on Friday, kind of book ending the week. And then you go look at Carson Bowen, a guy that was really struggling a couple of weeks ago and for the last couple of weeks, but over the last few games, he's been able to find his stride. And when you can go to either Carson Bowen or Nolan Traeger behind the plate, two very capable hitting catchers, it gives you so much to work with if you're head coach Kirk Saarloos. And now that you're getting into Big 12 play, you need to see that depth come to fruition. And I think for TCU, it will.
Yeah, it's such a better start to Big 12 play compared to last year. The bats it felt like last year the bats as a collective just went cold several times. So it is refreshing to see. And I think a lot of it has to do with Bill Mosiello. But yeah, the power really, I mean, that's kind of been, there's been a lot of home runs hit in these games. And, Chase Brunson, like you mentioned, he had a couple home runs this weekend. So, um, just overall, I mean, unbelievable performance from the offense. Now, obviously, you can't expect to get close to double-digit runs every single game, but they've shown again in games like UTSA, where they don't need a ton of runs to be able to score, and that kind of leads into the pitching a little bit. I think the highlight, obviously, Tommy Laporte, 7 hitless innings, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts. He's really coming into his own this season and has really stood out as the elite starting pitcher on this staff.
Yeah, Laporte, I mean, I think he's probably been the most consistent starter, like true starter that TCU's had this season.
Yeah.
His the only struggle with Laporte is that it feels like whenever he goes out there, he doesn't get run support, right? But fortunately, this time around against BYU, TCU bats were nice and awake. But Laporte did a nice job this weekend, like you mentioned, 7 no-hit innings. The 4 walks were a bit of a concern, but Laporte is always or Laporte recently has struggled with that command a little bit, especially early on in the game. But once he settles in, he's not a guy that you want to go up and face in the batter's box. The 6 strikeouts were huge. Got him up to 114 pitches. I thought he was going to be taken out after the 6th with how TCU was doing. But for somebody that was rolling like that, why not put him out there with the kind of lead that TCU had? And Laporte did great. Gianluca Shin came in. He did give up the infield hit, but that was just kind of a tough little number into no man's land down by first base. And then Nate Stern finished it up. I thought TCU did a really nice job navigating the doubleheader in how many relievers they used. They only ended up using 4 relievers total, 2 in each of game 1 and game 2. And that sets you up for so much success when you can go into the Friday game trying to sweep and say, look, we can have a short leash on anybody we want because we've got the arms. We don't need to force somebody to go out there and say, we need this much from you today, or we need you to, face these guys for sure. And then after that, we can get you out of there. It's like, no, we've basically got almost every arm possible to go to because Shin had 15 pitches. Stern had 17 pitches. The day before Katie Udy got us, or the game before Katie Udy got a save in just 14 pitches. The only guy you couldn't really use would be Mason Brassfield because he went 3 1/3. But even for him, it's great to see him stretch himself out. We've seen him go 3 innings several times as well. And then on Friday as well, you talk about the pitching in. It struggled there a little bit with Caden Parker and Braden Sloan. Trevor Baumler also struggled, but then you got to the back end of the bullpen. Caden Smith was absolutely fantastic. 3 no-hit innings, 4 strikeouts. Really shut the door on BYU and quieted them when TCU was able to then come back with 3 runs in the ninth, 3 runs in the ninth, and then the go-ahead run in the 11th, which was just awesome. But pitching this weekend was really solid, and you just hope that they can kind of continue this momentum into this week and into this Kansas series.
Yeah, it's a bit inconsistent at times for sure.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask you a little bit about that comeback win. TCU fell behind 6-0 after the top of the 3rd inning, but we talked yesterday, and you said in between innings that you just knew that TCU is probably going to come back and find a way to get into that game. What kind of gave you the confidence to feel that, and then how did that actually happen?
Yeah, I mean, when TCU was down 6-0 in the start, I was like, okay, this is going to be a little tough. Then TCU gets 1 in the 4th, 5 in the 5th, and then you're like, okay, so this team can do it. You go down by 6 again, why not do it again? Obviously there's more to it than just that, but I think it's just the way that TCU was swinging the bat all weekend. That was just really impressive. It was kind of like, look, why would you count yourself out of this with the way that TCU's been at the plate? Coming into that Friday game, they were batting 531 with 2 outs. So TCU's 2-out hitting was great. And then you look at the stats for BYU, they allow hitters against BYU with 2 outs bat an average of 298. So BYU struggles in getting this third out. And so that gave me the confidence to say, look, TCU can hit under pressure as well when they need to. They got the long ball going as well going into that Friday game, 14 extra base hits, 6 homers. They ended up with 5 homers on Friday, 11 total on the 3-game series. But yeah, it's TCU is just one of those teams that you just can't count out. They've got the swagger, they've got the confidence. Even when things don't go right, you know that the team has the utmost confidence in themselves. And the way that the team was swinging the bat, the fact that Friday's lineup was the same as game 2, essentially from Thursday, you're like, okay, these guys are in a groove. Whatever worked yesterday is probably going to still work today. And yeah, when a team comes back from a 6-run deficit twice, they can probably beat anybody in the nation given that circumstance. So
It's very telling about this team's character to be able to pull that off, and celebrate not just one but 2 walk-offs this
yeah,
week. It's fun right now, man. I'm having a great time watching, seeing this TCU team just continue to win ball games. It felt like, and I know I keep bringing up last year, but it just felt like they never fully clicked. But this year, it just it's a very much an offense that's just passing the baton to the next
yeah,
guy, not trying to win it with a couple guys. Certainly they can. They have a couple guys that can carry the offense, but it feels like everyone is wants to contribute offensively, and then even in the pitch with the pitching staff, the bullpen. I talked about it last week. Like the bullpen has had its inconsistencies, but it feels like a collective, like how the entire team, like if what am I trying to say here? It's very much a collective group with like, okay, if they're all clicking, yeah,
yeah,
if a couple guys are clicking, then the entire bullpen kind of feeds off of that. They
yep,
want to pass it to the next guy. They want to be able to do their job. But if they're struggling a little bit, then it kind of eats them up a little. So,
yeah,
um, and then of course the way they were able to eat up those innings um, the way that they didn't have to use a ton of arms in that doubleheader, it was definitely helped on Friday, and definitely an interesting schedule too, having to play 2 games on Thursday and then a game on Friday, not your traditional Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
nope.
Um, how was that for you in the booth? Was that was
Yeah,
it?
no, it was good. Thursday, I mean, any doubleheader is going to be a long day. So Thursday was a long one. I think I got to the ballpark at noon on Thursday, and then I ended up leaving probably around 10 o'clock. And then same thing on Friday. I got there at 3, ended up leaving probably around 10:30 or so. But it was good. It's very abbreviated. It's crazy to think that we played, gosh, what, 38 innings or so in was it 38 innings? Something like that. 38 innings
Yeah.
maybe in or 30 innings in 48 hours. That was just kind of crazy. Um,
Hmm.
but no, it was good. It was fun being out there. I think, it's tough too in the sense that, with the doubleheader on Thursday, not a ton of fans were able to come out, but the ones that did stayed for the doubleheader, which was great. And then the fans that came out Friday, there were a lot of fans that still stayed there through the 11th inning, which was, which is a testament to the TCU faithful and coming out and, not getting down and out when their team goes down by, a score of 12-6, in the 7th inning. But no, it was a fun weekend. And again, I thought TCU did a fantastic job, I think, in all facets of the game, defensively as well. TCU is a team that commits just about an error a game, I believe, which actually in the grand scheme of things is better than a lot of other teams. It just, when you say, okay, you make an error every game, it's like, oh, that doesn't sound good. But TCU defensively were very sharp. And I also kind of want to give credit to a couple of guys who haven't been swinging the bat very well this season or lately, that have still been huge for TCU. Because you look at this lineup construction, right, for this team, and it was great to get Colton Griffin back, great to get Preston Gamster back as well. But some of the guys that haven't been hitting as well are still getting on base at a super high clip. You talk about guys like Sam Myers, Isaac Cadena, Jack Bell. Myers batting just 225, gets on base 38% of the time. Isaac Cadena, 221, has that big long ball power that he showed off, gets on base 37% of the time. Jack Bell, who really struggles to put bat to baseball, batting just a buck 81, gets on base 35% of the time, and still somehow always finds a way to get on base and make and wreak havoc for TCU opponents. These guys, even when they don't swing the bat at their best, still find a way to impact the game. And I think that's huge, right? It's the fact that this team has the culture to kind of look at themselves in the mirror and say, look, maybe I'm not doing my part at the plate, but I'm still getting on base, or I'm going to play my role to the best of my ability. And if I can't, I know that there's someone else that will come up and take my position and fill in properly for this team. And it's a good thing to have that next man up mentality, because ultimately that's what will get you to postseason baseball, is that next man up mentality and that depth that TCU has in abundance. So just a really exciting season, because I think you got to see what this team is capable of at its best. And again, this is not to throw any shade at BYU, but for TCU, you're not going to play BYU. You're not going to play a BYU caliber team every weekend. So you want to take this momentum, continue it, but also take it with a grain of salt and say, look, if we come back to earth a little bit, don't let that shatter your hopes and confidence. It's just, we played a team that is the worst in the Big 12 in pitching, and we did our job against them, and that's good, but take it with a grain of salt going forward, but try to keep that momentum rolling. So
Yeah, you mentioned the on base thing with Isaac Cadena. Part of the reason he's still consistently in the lineup is because his ability to get on base. Seth and I were talking about this last week. It's like we were saying that Billy Bean would love this TCU team
he
because they
would.
get on base, and so we've decided that Moneyball 2 will be around this TCU baseball team, because they get on base, man.
They get on base. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, I thought I'd mention that to you, being an A's fan, of course.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was funny when you mentioned that. I was just thinking back to last week. I'm like, oh yeah,
Yep.
we were just talking about how they get on base, and they,
Yep.
that's kind of their thing with a couple of those guys.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I've thought about that several times too. Just, I mean, TCU always finds a way to get on base. That reminds me of one of my favorite quotes. It's one of the scenes where Billy Bean's like, look, I pay you to get on base, not to get thrown out at second. And that can also be taken into account with TCU maybe this season a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But no, TCU's done a really good job in, like you mentioned, passing the baton. It's just get it to the next guy or work a good count. You have so many players on this team that know how to work a count and make the pitcher work. And whether or not that ends up in a strikeout or ends up in an unproductive out, not only do you get the pitch count up, but the guys behind you get to see more pitches. And that also goes into that also plays a huge factor in TCU seeing the ball better at the plate, right? When you get to see 40 pitches in the first 2 innings, that's great. That means, hopefully the second time or third time you go up, you already kind of know exactly what this guy's throwing and how to identify the pitch right out of his hand, right? And so TCU hitting was great. TCU pitching kept everybody off balance the whole weekend. Aside from Friday night for a couple of innings, I think TCU's pitching just had a field day with BYU's batters. And yeah, it was all around a really great Thursday and Friday. I nearly say weekend, but we had Saturday and Sunday off. So
Yeah, it was fun, man. I great weekend for the Frogs. They are climbing up the standings, man. They're close to re-entering the top 25. I think they were receiving some votes. I'm not sure exactly where they are in the polls, but as long as they keep winning, they'll start getting more national recognition. They moved to 25-8 on the season, but with an 8-4 conference record. But this is a big series coming up here, and it may not have been big at the beginning of the season when you kind of circled your calendar a little bit. They've got at UT Arlington on Tuesday, but then big weekend in Fort Worth against Kansas, and then those games again Friday, Saturday, Sunday at 6 o'clock, 2 p.m., and then 1 p.m. Big weekend for TCU. I said that like 3 times, but it's a lot to prove.
It is, yeah. It's a lot to prove. I mean, again, you're coming off of a very strong weekend, and you're basically about to play the polar opposite team that you played against BYU. You're going to be playing a Kansas team that just got into the top 25. They're 22nd now in the NCAA D1 baseball top 25 poll. Sorry, that's a lot to say. But you're going to be playing a Kansas team that is on a roll. They're hot. Kansas, gosh, they are 27-6, 9-3 in conference play, so one game better than TCU. And obviously with a record of 27-6, you expect the home and away splits to be good. And Kansas is 12-4 on the road. They are not a team to take lightly. They do well when they travel away from Lawrence, Kansas. Sorry, I sometimes still get Kansas State and Kansas mixed up. Yeah. But they're coming off of a series sweep against a UCF team this last weekend. They've won, let me count, 2 against St. Thomas, 3 against Oklahoma State, 1 against South Dakota State, and 3 straight against UCF. So if my math is working properly, that's 9 wins in a row. It'll be a really good battle. And this is where you would love to see TCU try to win this series. If you can win on Friday, you give yourself so much more of leeway on Saturday and Sunday to kind of do your work. But TCU has struggled on Friday nights in conference play and also just in general, right? Then you lose that Friday game. It puts so much more pressure on your team, on your pitching staff to perform on Saturday and then to perform on Sunday. Because once you lose on Friday and Saturday, obviously I'm not saying anything novel, but you lose a series. So it puts your back up against the wall on Saturday to try to perform. But again, this is another chance for TCU to stay at the top of the Big 12 in that top 2, top 3 area, but also spread out that the difference between kind of the 3rd and 4th spots and the 5th, 6th, and 7th spots, which at some points can get very, very tight. So it'll be a fun weekend for sure. Really, really looking forward to this. I'm curious to see what starting rotation we roll out, but in terms of just the days that guys are pitching, but it definitely helps that guys are going to get an extra day or 2 of rest with how early the BYU series wrapped up. So
yeah, it's a grueling schedule. So to get those couple days off is huge. Good for the catchers, mainly the catchers and pitchers to kind of rest up and whatnot. But we could be looking at TCU at least could be in first place in the Big 12 after this, if not, very close to it, depending on how it goes. But I think, that first game is going to be I think going to dictate how this series goes because, TCU still kind of looking for more consistency on Sunday on that. I say Sunday, but that third game of the series with its pitching, still a little bit inconsistent, more of a bullpen kind of game that we've seen from the last several weeks. So if you could steal Friday, you feel good about Saturday, assuming Tommy Lepore is on the bump. You feel good about him being able to go at least 5-6 innings and giving your team a shot. And then, Sunday is just kind of a toss up at this point with this team. It's times like that where you miss Ben Abel, you miss having that extra arm and your best arm on the pitching staff. So we'll see what Coach Sarlos does. He's done a really good job navigating the pitching season, and you got to feel really good about where TCU stands at this point in the season. Kansas is a fun team. They're kind of getting a lot of attention on social media. kind of the vibes team in the Big 12. So I hate to ruin their parade, but hopefully the Frogs can do so this weekend. Very excited.
Yeah, no, it'll be an awesome weekend for both teams. I'm really glad this game's this series is at home, so TCU fans hopefully will definitely show up. The weather should be a lot better than it was over the last couple of days against BYU and just here in Fort Worth in general. But no, this is a huge opportunity, and again, I think TCU. I don't believe they received any votes this week for the top 25, but if you look at it, you've got Kansas at 22nd, Southern Miss, who TCU played earlier on this season, still at 23rd, Arizona's 24th, and teams that received votes, DBU, K-State, and Arizona State, teams that TCU's played all three of those teams. Kansas State just once in the Arlington series, but again, TCU is in good standing at the point with some of the wins over some of these teams, aside from the Arizona State series. But pretty soon, I would imagine if TCU is able to take 2 out of 3 against this Kansas team, you'll definitely see the Frogs get receiving votes, and it's all about just continuing that momentum. I think the top 25 can be, for baseball, it could be one of the hardest top 25s to break back into after you fall out. But for TCU, the way it's going, if they continue trending up and trending the way that they're going, they should be back in the top 25 pretty soon. So
awesome vibes right now in Fort Worth. Getting good all around play from Frog Ball USA. Again, they will have a big series against the Jayhawks at Lupton. So hopefully we get a good crowd for that and a series win for sure. But that'll finish things up here for this episode of Believe in TCU. You can follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube page, or listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, all at Believe in TCU. So for Ian Nepetian, I'm Zion Trammell. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week. And as always, go Frogs.